Hello, everyone, and welcome to Litter Media Live Special Edition. I'm your host, Mike Smith, and we're being joined today by Chillicothe Mayor Luke Feeney, also Asti Powell with the City of Chillicothe, talking about the comprehensive plan that had a great turnout last night at the Ross County Service Center in an open house to discuss what this plan is all about. That's why we have these two here for an exclusive Litter Media Live interview this morning to discuss that, especially for those people that maybe couldn't attend that meeting. Our special edition brought to you by Classic Brands, back right after this.
Introducing Budweiser Zero. 0% alcohol, 0 grams of sugar, full Budweiser flavor. For all the moments you want a beer and need to stay on your game. Budweiser Zero, zero compromise.
Back with Chillicothe Mayor Luke Feeney and also Asti Powell. First of all, great turnout last night at the Service Center.
Yeah, we were really excited to see the enthusiasm and the turnout. We, in hindsight, needed a bigger room. Good problem to have, I suppose. But it was just really thrilling, especially in the dead of winter, to have so many people come out excited about the future of the city.
So, Asti, with this comprehensive plan, first of all, we're talking to some people maybe that couldn't be at the meeting last night. What is the plan?
Yeah, so the comprehensive plan is going to be the guiding document for the city and the community about where we want to be the next 10 to 15 years. It's been a year-long planning process that's been heavily focused on engaging the public throughout. So these aren't ideas that the mayor and I came up with or city council came up with. We specifically asked the public to come out and what do they like about the community and they want to keep and continue, and then what are the areas that we need to improve or we want to grow in.
Now, prior to last night, there was a survey that was out for the community to weigh in on and what they felt like some of the priorities should be, and that came out to a list of so many that you prioritized.
Yeah, so we have 73 total actions in the comprehensive plan, and then 20 were listed as priority actions, and those were, or they're actually provided in the plan in order from the most votes specifically from the public and what they want to see us focus on first.
Mayor, with anything like this, whatever final decision comes down, it still has to be, as I understand, legislatively agreed to by City Council and signed off in legislation.
Yeah, the interesting one with this document is that it's actually the job of the City Planning Commission. Mm-hmm. Maybe the most important role of the Planning Commission, because this will be the guiding document for years to come. Now, last night I made the joke, this is about 70 years in the making because it's been so long since our last comprehensive plan. The idea going forward would be that this document could be updated every 5 years or 10 years so that it's not such a gap in between. But as Asti was saying, as you referenced, we really set out to make sure that this document was created by the community. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the survey, multiple in-person public events, voting, really trying to aggregate what the community thought and felt, and so that when it goes to the Planning Commission to approve, and we will send it to council for their review as well, because it's so important that we all as a community buy in to what the community said it wanted.
Of course, a lot of people say, what's the price tag? And that always comes into this discussion, and what might that be, and where would the money come from?
Yeah, so each of the actions, some of the actions we've already identified some funding sources, whether they're grants or existing operating funds for it. But the other piece of it is these are actions, and so that's part of the process over the next 5 to 10 years. So we know they're actions, and so that's the first step of saying, where are we looking for funding and what's the focus when we're looking for that type of funding. We do have several of the actions that were carried over with our ARPA spending plan, which is the $2.2 million from the city. So we anticipate that this year we'll be able to kind of jumpstart some of those actions with that funding.
In many of the stories that we've run at littermedia.com to, the survey, previewing last night's meeting, we've used some artist renderings of Riverside, Tiffin, and also Yoctangi Park. Why are those three being highlighted?
I can speak to that. So when we put out our request for proposals, the way this started was City Council got behind the idea a couple years ago that it was time to plan for our future. And without City Council's support then, it would have never happened. We go out to select a firm that will guide this process. And the firm that we selected, we really wanted them to engage the public, but also be able to listen to the public and identify places in the community where we saw specific opportunity. And so at the end of the day, those are the three areas that the community really said, we see special opportunity. There was a 1993 park plan that actually references an amphitheater. We see that come back again. It's something that has been had enthusiasm for quite a few years. The old school Tiffin property is a property that the city owns. And we know through a housing study that was done recently, and just people's experience over the past couple of years, housing is a really significant issue for the community. And then the Riverside District is a place where we own some property, and there are people really interested in seeing what's possible there. I think one of the neatest things about that Riverside area is that we don't really do a great job of recognizing a river. That view of Mount Logan there, and really making the most of that river experience, the bike path. And so the neat thing to me with these three renderings is it really gives people a vision, and potential investors a vision of what could be. It's one thing to talk about what it would look like if there were 40 houses built on the Tiffin property, but to actually visualize it and see the possibility. Not only that, the master plan, the process involved an economist who basically made sure that these projects as presented, whether you're talking about Tiffin or the Riverside District, are economically feasible. So the Riverside District concept is retail first floor, housing on the second floor, but it wasn't proposed without the economics in mind. And so I think what you get at the end of the day is a plan that has, it's 150 pages long. Those three renderings are kind of the visual highlights. But to circle back to something you asked Asti about the price tag, a lot of the actions in the plan require no money. They require community engagement or assigning specific tasks to specific groups. And I think that it's important to remember the vision that the community expressed is pretty wide-ranging, and a lot of it just has to do with energy, not so much cash.
A little bit of a history lesson concerning Tiffin property. People might remember when the old Tiffin school was demolished, Goodwill Industries first purchased it. They were wanting to use that area for some warehousing, and immediately there was some pushback from people in the community. What we need is housing. So what you're talking about in this plan kind of answers some of those concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give Goodwill a lot of credit. I think they had, the work that they've been doing, expanding and really serving the community. They had a good vision to use that property well, but they did get some pushback from the community. And they actually did get approved for a variance to have a small section of that parcel be a warehouse. But I think they recognized that it wasn't maybe the best use for that parcel, and so they opted for a different location. And during those conversations, we talked about, as a city and city council, the great possibility that it held. And that's when city council stepped in and made the decision to purchase it for this very opportunity that we're talking about now. So it was really an example of community organizations in the city working together well for the best interest long-term for the city.
I don't know if this even fits into this discussion of the comprehensive plan, but in light of some of the things that you've said, that it brings it to mind. There are properties in any city, and Chillicothe is no different than any other, that are considered blighted. That's the defined term for them, meaning no one's living there, the properties are run down, and unfortunately some criminal activity sometimes takes place there. Oftentimes there are grant monies that are awarded to communities to demolish those so that they can have something positive put into the place. Asti, is that a part of this comprehensive plan, some of these properties? Yeah,
so some of that work is embedded in the housing chapter and the actions, and it's something that the Land Bank's currently working on now. The Land Bank's a joint effort between the city and the county, and we have state funds right now that we've identified some of those properties you're talking about. They're blighted, they're vacant, they're a nuisance, but they're also causing issues for police and fire that are being called to them for different reasons. And so we're working through and demolishing those or working with the property owners to clean them up in instead of being demolished. So that's been productive and something we want to continue so that it is embedded into this comprehensive plan as something that we see and the community sees as important, and we want to continue.
At the open house, as far as the public participation, we mentioned there was a good turnout there. Were there any questions or concerns that you heard that, hey, I didn't think of that?
One interesting one that I got was somebody who worked to update the zoning code 10 or 15 years ago and was a little bit frustrated that zoning was again being brought up, which I thought was a good take. And, anything that we're proposing now or revisiting, it's not to discredit the work that was done before, but I think the concept of this document and this revisiting of the plan is to remind ourselves that as a community and this document, we're always changing and we always have to be looking to the future. And just because we say we want to look at the zoning code doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be completely changed. But the way people are living and working now is changing. And we can't have a code that is stuck 15 years ago when we know that more people work at home, more people are needing to age in place, and we have to examine whether or not our code allows for that. And so any work that was done in the past, time and energy, and we're appreciative for it. But what we've tried to create going forward is plans that are actionable and that will be revisited again in 10 years. I think, for Asti and I, the measure of success here would be that some of the actions that are mentioned, we take action on right away, and also, though, that it's revisited soon, not in 70 years, because I don't want the mayor of Chillicothe 70 years from now and 2092.
Looking back and seeing who was the mayor then.
That joker did not set us on a path, 70 years ago, And so I think, part of what we're planning for is when we're not here and really putting the community in a stable place and a place to that it is baked into the cake. We're revisiting, we're planning for the future, we're thinking about World Heritage, and we're ready to adapt and change as the world changes around us.
Asti, anything that you heard or saw last night in that regard?
Yeah, I think I just thought it was interesting to hear the positive feedback from the community and in hearing them kind of connect the dots as they learn more about the plan. I think I heard multiple times, with the Tiffin and the Riverside, they're like, that's going to take a developer. And I'm like, that's absolutely right. But they're like, Yaktangi Park, they were really excited about that. They're like, we should start working on that right now. And so that was pretty refreshing to hear.
As you said, there are some things that can get going right away. But anytime government does any kind of a master plan or the first thing that comes out, well, we've seen this in the past and nothing gets done. Your response to that?
That is also my fear, and I hate hearing that. And I think when we hired this company to help us through this process, in addition to the community engagement component of it, we said absolutely we are not creating a document that sits on the shelf and gathers dust. And as Brian mentioned, I heard him say it again last night, this is a document that should be dog-eared. It should have coffee stains. We should be referring to it daily. And so there are absolutely, of the 20 top, of the 70-some priorities, we've identified about 20 that are top. You will very quickly see committee assignment requests to start acting. And like I said, some of them don't require money.
Right.
Some of them require us going to the community and saying, this is what you were excited about. Now let's see some action come of it and really get committees or whoever it is engaged in pushing it forward. And like Asti said, we've got money in the budget this year to tackle some of these projects. And so some of them, obviously, if we build a new amphitheater, skate park, splash pad, a new pickleball court, that's going to cost money. But we've also had a lot of success in recent years, pulling in grants, matching dollars, and making the most out of the resources we have so that things that might seem insurmountable, with some enthusiasm and momentum, we're pretty confident we can make happen.
To conclude, other than the survey, last night's open house, moving forward, what can the average citizen do now to help make sure this process moves forward from their perspective?
What I see is the positive impact that community engagement has. This document is absolutely from the voice of the community, and that carries into everything from attending council meetings, attending committee meetings. There's planning commission, there's zoning, there's design review board. All those things might seem a little awkward or sort of uncertain, but they absolutely those are the places that really the fabric of the community is woven. And so paying attention to those meetings, attending a council meeting, just watching on YouTube or Facebook enhances the engagement in the community. And what it results in is a project like this where the community will look and feel like the place they want to be.
And Asti, to the mayor's point, it seems like if people will engage more on those committee levels, it could save a lot of time, because once council throws it back, that just wastes time.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think, outside of the committees and the meetings and that sort of thing, we have additional community engagement to do on some of these actions. So there might be an action about upgrades to the park. We want to know exactly what upgrades. So maybe even if you're not comfortable going to a city council meeting or a planning commission meeting yet, at least get online and participate in those engagements as well, because that helps build the feedback and create something really good.
I'll add one thing. We've learned a lot through this process, and one of the things we've learned is that I have my mayor's office hours, and I show up and I listen, and sometimes 2 people show up, sometimes 10 do. But we've realized that we have to be dynamic in how we engage the community. So we have the website continues to be up. There's a new 6th Ward park that's hopefully coming to the community. We want the community to engage on that website and tell us what kind of park they want. We've had a lot of positive feedback on that level of interaction. We're going to expand that this year to make it easier to engage on what kind of park you want, but easier to engage on the pothole that you found. We don't want everybody to have to call in with a comment. If it's easier to do it on Facebook, do it on Facebook, or these websites that we can use. In this day and age, engagement is just so important, and being able to connect with the community is something we feel really strongly about.
So the comprehensive plan, it's still up on the website for anyone to go to.
Yep, choosechillicothe.com. They can download it and review it. I will go back to one of your other questions. I had a suggestion at the meeting that once the plan's adopted, if we could provide copies at the library for people to check out,
Good.
like hard copies. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea, so that the community can stay engaged and see what's happening, and push us to make sure that we're following it. So.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of different communities that this program goes out to. You may be getting some calls from Circleville, Lancaster, and I know that those kind of exchanges with some of the committees, Mayor, that you've been on, you talk to mayors from other towns and get ideas and share those.
Absolutely. Mayor McElroy in Circleville, and there's a whole Southern Ohio Mayors group, and we get in that room and we ask everything from, how do you do a comprehensive plan to how do you get that plow repaired? It is really, we get in that room and it's a safe place where we can ask questions and bounce ideas off of each other. But really, like any other industry, we learn from each other, and we have to be really humble sometimes to say, I just don't know how to pull this off, and we lean on each other and commiserate often.
Yeah. There's not always a need to reinvent the wheel.
Correct.
So if somebody's doing it right now, share those ideas.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, that's our special edition today. We've been talking with Asti Powell, also Chillicothe Mayor Luke Feeney, about the comprehensive plan. The open house showed that design to the community last night. As Asti said, that plan is still up on the city's website, Choose Chillicothe, so feel free to get there. If you have any questions, give these folks a call. Thanks for being with us today and sharing.
Thank you.
Again, this has been Litter Media Live Special Edition, brought to you by Classic Brands. Don't forget to join Dan Ramey, who's just off to my left. Our daily program coming up at 11 o'clock today here on Litter Media Live on Facebook. I'm Mike Smith.